welcome to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisen, the host of Inside Personal Growth. Sitting here in lovely Encinitas, California, and joining us on the other side of the world is Peter Hickey. And Peter and I have known each other for many years, and Peter was the prior founder of MAUS software, mouse software. He sold that, and now he is the president and founder of Institute of Advisors, and he is joining us from just right outside of Sydney. You kind of have to take a boat across to get to where he is. Good day to you. Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning to you, Greg, as well. Great to be on the podcast and great to see you again.
Likewise, it is always good to see you, and I appreciate you taking this time to really inform our listeners about his new book. We're going to be talking about that. At the same time, we're going to be talking about the Institute of Advisors, which is not a new foundation that he set up, but it's a program that we're going to discuss, and that's instituteadvisors.com for any of you that are currently right now just so anxious that you've got to go look. It's instituteadvisors.com. The book is called The Consulting and Advisory Guide to Success. And Peter has been doing this for a very, very long time from both sides of the aisle, both the software side and now having a certified program for people. So I'm going to let him know a little about you. He's the president and founder of Institute of Advisors, an organization that runs certification courses for business advisors and accountants in 10 countries around the world. Prior to the Institute, Peter was the original founder of the global software and education brand Mouse, and that he had built 2 international consulting and advisor networks across his career. He's a best-selling author and creator of a wide range of business tools. And if you actually even go up to Amazon, you'll see some of the other tools there that have been used in over 60,000 businesses around the world. He's a pioneer and SME thought leader, continually innovating and producing simplified management content methodologies and not anymore software, but he used to do software. As a business owner, he founded, successfully built his business from a one-man business to a multi-million-dollar concern and sold it to a multi-billion-dollar publisher. And he's reacquired the business 7 years later and consolidated the methodologies into a SaaS platform. And again, this goes back a ways because this is before he sold that. He's written a number of best-selling books on business planning and exit and succession planning, and even in a mini MBA program. If you want to look out more about him, you can find him on LinkedIn. We'll have a LinkedIn link for him, so you can find out more about him there. So look, Peter, we're really speaking to an audience today that hopefully it's individuals that are listening to this that are interested in furthering their career, or they're looking for something new even. Maybe this is the thing for them, right? They've always been people who have been involved in business, and they'd like to find some way new to help people who are in business and help them become much more efficient and effective at running their business. So any of you out there that are listening today, this podcast is for you. So let's talk the introduction of the book. This new book, which is on Amazon, that people can get in a Kindle version and they can get in a paperback version. It's called The Consulting and Advisory Guide to Success. And you mentioned this strong passion for helping others, which is why I just said for anybody who wants to help other people, if you're listening, this could be a huge opportunity for you because we have a certification course you can take, which then makes you more qualified to go sit with business owners and advise them. How has this passion that you've had for so many years kind of evolved for you, and the outcome being that now the Institute of Advisors? Can you explain to the audience?
Yeah, look, I think there's so many businesses out there, Greg, and they're suffering, they're struggling. You've got people that are put their house on the line, they've got their heart, their energy into a business, and they're phenomenal. They're brave. They've gone out. They've started to build that first part of the business, and then they might be technicians. They might just have lost their way, and that they need help. They need help from someone. And I suppose the passion is being someone that's gone through that journey myself, someone that's, sort of needed that help and advice and support from someone. There's a whole army of people that we can train to help small to medium-sized business. And I think that part of what we're trying to do at the Institute is, we're trying to do a number of things. The first is the existing advisors out in the marketplace. We're trying to improve their skill set. We're trying to improve their professionalism. The advisory landscape is very much of a cowboy industry. There's no government designated credential or set of standards. And so part of what we're trying to do is to lobby governments to try and build a set of standards. So when we have someone that calls themselves a business advisor go into a small business, that they can, they're going through a process. They've got a methodology. They're sort of trained at a level that they can really support and help that small business owner. So the book is all about not so much the actual step-by-step processes you go through, but it's about enabling someone that wants to get into advisory and showing them the sorts of things they could go through. It shows them the sorts of questions they could ask, how they can make a difference, and how they can win clients and really make a positive impact on those business owners.
So, Peter, what makes this advisory or this Institute of Advisors and the certificate different? And I know you can explain this. Then let's say somebody that goes to get a bachelor's of science degree in business management, right? And they come out of college and they go, oh, yeah, I can be an advisor, but they've really never done it. And you and I both know that it takes sometimes many years of experience to actually get to a point where you're proficient at doing that. How does this expedite the process? And if somebody already has a degree in business or is an accountant or is a bookkeeper and they've been doing this, how can this help this group of individuals?
Yeah, I think the very first part is understanding what the role of an advisor is. And when you look at an advisor is there to support, nurture, and help the business owner grow. But an advisor is also there to hold hands with the business owner, to take them on a journey, to be there through the ups and downs, to motivate, to encourage. These are the sorts of things that you need to really go through and explain to someone that wants to get into an advisory that your role is not just technical competence. It's not just business experience and imposing that on a business owner. What we have to do is take a holistic approach, and we have to sometimes delve into what's going through the mind of you as a business owner. How can I, like a coach, how can I get the best out of you? What do we need to do? What are your strengths and weaknesses as a business owner? And how can we help you to focus on your strengths? How can we help you to delegate? How can we help you to run the business better? And so that comes down to the role of an advisor is more holistic than what most people think.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to those coaches that are listening right now that literally are coaching? They're called executive coaches, quote unquote, executive coaches. And there are thousands of them all across the United States and all across the globe in many different capacities. And they are acting as, again, the term is coach, but there is some psychology to that. A big part of it is the psychology that they're utilizing in their practice. I know I've told you this before. I got a master's degree in spiritual psychology, which for me was the best thing that I ever did when I added this to the consulting, right? And many listeners right now are going to be saying, well, I'm already a coach. how would the certificate help me? One, and two, why should I take the course? Two.
Okay. So there are different types. So if you're a coach, there are different types of coaching. You talked about executive coaching. So executive coaching is working internally with somebody more on their personal skills, their objectives, helping them to, in their capacity, in their role, to get to the next level. Business coaching, business advisory is really working on the business through the business owner. So what we're doing is looking more holistically at the organization. We're looking at probably that first part is what's holding the business back, looking at a strategic sort of planning process, and then looking at some sort of accountability program that can be delegated. So the certification program we run helps a typical, if you're a coach and coming from that framework, it helps you to be probably a little bit more technical from the business perspective. If you're a accountant coming into the program, it helps you to focus on non-financial metrics and understanding who the business owner is rather than just financial metrics. So the program helps, and what we talk about is the 3 steps of advisory, which is that initial engagement, identifying what's holding the business back, looking holistically at a roadmap to go forward, and then taking that roadmap, segregating it into smaller accountability pieces, and then keeping the business owner accountable on an ongoing basis.
I think the key you said is a roadmap. You're actually providing the people that go through the course a roadmap that they can take to their business clients and follow in a systematic way to actually have a better outcome versus flying off here, flying off there, doing this, doing that. Now, you also shared 7 tips to becoming a great advisor in the book. Could you share those tips with the listeners, and what are considered what you call starting an advisory practice, right? So, hey, everybody wants to be a great advisor. Not everybody is, but you have a part in this course that teaches people about becoming a great advisor.
Well, if you want to become a great advisor, I think first of all, it's looking at what does a business owner want. So it's looking. You've got to understand the role of the advisor, and as we talked about before, it's understanding from a personal perspective what the business owner is going through. So you need to be able to connect with that business owner. You need to be able to identify what's happening. And you do that through asking open questions, finding out what's holding you back, what are the pain points you're experiencing. Then from there, we want to sort of like delve into that, to move that to the next level, to connect with you emotionally to help you to go forward, and then also connect with you technically on what needs to be done. So a good advisor is somebody that's going to go through and connect with the business owner, but have a process. And I think what happens is that a lot of advisors don't have a process. They don't have a methodology. And we need to have that process, that methodology. We need to be strong. We need to be motivational. And we need to, I think, what really identifies a good advisor is an ongoing accountability program as well.
Well, and I think the most important thing is when you sell the contract initially, whatever it might be, you need to have milestones for wins, right? There needs to be wins in there for the owner, that he feels that the money he's spending that he hired you to do, that he is getting, or she is getting, their money's worth. You talk about critical skill sets that an advisor should have. What are the 3 most critical skill sets you think an advisor should have before they go down the road to become a business advisor?
So the first is personal and sales skills. That they've got to understand how to create a good impression, how to sell their services. The second is marketing skills. They've got to be able to understand how to market themselves. what promotional material, how to build a website, how to position themselves, how to stand out from the crowd, what documents are going to go through, what's their price point going to look like. And the third is, you can have all of that, but if you don't know your stuff, you've got to have technical competence. So you've got to have business competence, business experience. You've got to understand and have been at the coal front or understand what a business owner is going through.
Those are really good ones. And I think that of the ones that you have outlined in the book, like you said, there's 20, the reality is those 3 are very critical. Now, I mentioned this a minute ago about the roadmap, and I said benchmarks. And you got to use these as a basis for improvement. Things have to be improving when you start becoming an advisor for the client. How can advisors measure their progress in both the improvement in the business and also their own skill set? Because as their skills get better, it expedites and they can do it a lot quicker. Yeah?
Yep. So for the business itself, we recommend that some sort of a scorecard is identified in the beginning of the program and is used in a monthly or quarterly meeting with the client. So what we do is, and the most important part that we sort of preach in the course and as we go through, is that scorecard can't be just about financial metrics. It can't be just about sales growth, profit growth, or whatever. It's got to involve also the non-financial metrics. So things like conversion rates, number of product returns, anything that's identifying leads coming into the business, website visitors. So it's got to be looking both at what we talk about. If you think about management theory, something like a balanced scorecard. Kaplan and Norton 1992 developed, which had 4 quadrants. So we're looking at innovation, we're looking at customer, we're looking at financial, and we're looking at it internally in the organization. So we want to develop that scorecard, and we want to, our monthly meetings or quarterly meetings are running an accountability program on that scorecard.
Yeah, and I'd say this part is the meat and bones of it, right? It's a very critical part of what it is that you're doing. And having this scorecard and measuring your progress. And like you said, all these indicators like KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. It's the kind of things that would be on those scorecards, correct?
Yeah.
For that as well. I know you didn't mention it, but I was like, okay, yeah, there's got to be key performance indicators there. So look, let's kind of go back here a second. In selling ourselves, we always have to make first good impressions. Everybody says you have 7 seconds for vital business people to actually connect, and they've already made a judgment about you. I like Peter, I like Greg, I don't. And what techniques do you recommend for achieving a higher rate of what's called likability, right?
Yep.
One. And can you give an example of how a poor first impression might derail a potential client relationship? Because, this happens time and time again. I see it.
Yeah. Look, I think the first impression, you walk in the door, right? So you've got a client there or a prospect, and you've just opened the door, you sat down at the desk. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to eye contact. So you've got to have eye contact. You've got to have a face that looks like you want to be there, right? Looks like, you've got to have that immediate reaction. You've got to be using, there's 42 muscles in the face. You've got to be using those muscles in the face as you go through that meeting with the client. And then I think it's the tone of your voice. What you've got to understand is that that business owner, that business prospect will not trust you in the beginning. There's this sort of dance that you do. There's got to be a rhythm to the play in those first meetings. And so you start, the first impression you have is the smile on your face. It's the I'm pleased to see you. It's what you dress, the professionals of what you look like. It's the tone of your voice. The tone of your voice is so important. It's not showing, and when you're early to advisory, you show fear on your face. Your eyebrows go up and you go back, and you just, you don't look confident. So it's practicing. And what we talk about with advisors is, and it's funny when you're talking to sort of 40, 50 and 60-year-olds about, or however old you are, about practicing in the mirror before you go into that meeting, about practicing with a partner, an accountability partner. But everything is so important in your face, that recognition. You've got to understand that you are the product. You're not selling a product, you're selling yourself. And when you sell yourself, this person is going to be paying $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 to buy you. And so they've got to trust you. And then I think the other thing is, when you go into that meeting, you've got to have a plan. So when the client says to you, so what do you want to talk about? How are we going to do it? You've got to have the right open questions. You've got to have the right script. And it's really interesting that the difference in a phrase in that script, the difference in your tone, can mean that you either win that client over or you lose that client. Mm-hmm. And it's, like if you ask closed questions, yes or no questions, the conversation's going to go nowhere. If I ask a question like, look, you called me in, there's obviously a reason that you've got in your mind for why this meeting should take place. Tell me, what is it that you're looking for? That's an open question. What's holding your business back? Now, if you could compare yourself to your biggest competitor, how would you see? How are you stronger? How are you weaker? So these are questions that are right. In fact, do you find you delegate? Do you find you're good at delegating? Do you find you? And so what we want to do is, and everything that you say, Greg, I'm going to have. And so when you're a rookie advisor, and we talk about going from rookie to experience. Mm-hmm. When you're a rookie advisor, you're going to ask questions. You're not going to follow through. You're not going to connect in the conversation. As an experienced advisor, or someone that's getting good at their craft, you're having a conversation like I'm having to you in a pub. I'm taking what you're saying. I'm understanding it. I'm feeling it emotionally. And then I'm moving on to the next point and structuring it into a structured process. And then if I want to be a clever advisor that's going to close that client, I've got to have a funneling process to get down to the point that hits the emotional mark, that then sells the return on investment, that then sells the assignment.
Yeah, I think that you used a good terminology there to kind of like peel back the onion. You literally have to kind of peel back the layers and layers and layers of this. And that's how you start to make a deeper connection with people. And then after you've asked these questions, you need to be able to put the dots together afterwards, which is why I have this next question. The book includes these practical examples and templates for marketing. And, where people actually fail quite a bit at this is really in how they market their services, right? And yes, it's one thing for us to make a good impression, but it's another thing to be able to have really good marketing collateral, really good language, really good way to approach this. Can you discuss how advisors can customize, you in the book, you've got it, these to fit kind of their unique practice, because you give a lot of different templates.
Yeah, so we got heaps of templates in the book. We actually go through, which is probably the best reaction we've had to a section of the book is the 23-step case study we do with Fred the advisor, and that sort of goes through exactly that. Fred's setting up a new practice. The first thing he's got to ask himself is, who's his target market? Who is he trying to appeal to? And I think anybody listening to this, the most important tip or fast track for success in a practice is to try and get a distinct target market, to try and get someone to focus on. Then there's a lot of things from videos that you can put on your website that we have at the Institute when you become a member and do the course. There's brochures that are editable that you can automatically, just update with your logo, etc. But you can take them and you can customize them for a target market. So you could be specializing in the dentistry industry, in the engineering, in production, in exporting. But these templates can be crafted. And I sort of always talk about there's 3 or 4 words that can increase the effectiveness of any copy. So if I have the 10-step profit improvement program, or 5 ways to exit your business, I can multiply the effectiveness by 10 by just adding a few words to that. Mm-hmm. And a few words are for the dental industry, for accountants, for manufacturers. So by overlaying your specialty onto our templates, you can really build the power of that marketing.
Yeah. And I think this book is a great place for the listeners right now that are thinking about this to start. And I want to say that, you've made a little bit of an offer from a standpoint of the number of books. So I want to let all the listeners know you can contact me, and I'll be more than happy to get you a book. And here's the caveat. If you're interested in actually looking further into the Institute of Advisors course. So this book is really a tool. And if you're not, we're going to have a link to Amazon. You can just go out to Amazon and buy the book. But if you have further, more in-depth kind of interest, definitely contact me and I'll get you a book. Now, let's talk about business owners. All of them, they have more than 2 sets of goals, but let's just talk about the 2. One is aligning business goals with personal values and lifestyle. When a person exits their business, they're frequently going, well, what is my relevance anymore? You're familiar with that question, that answer. And they don't believe they're relevant. They've gotten too old. They're putting out the pasture. The kids are taking the business over. How do you help somebody, no matter what stage business they're in, to think about the long term and really be thinking about also the exit strategy? Because a lot of times people will start a business and, they're really ready. They want to exit in like 3 years, right? They're saying, okay, great, I'm going to exit out of this business and do something else. It very seldom happens that way, but that is kind of what a lot of people tell you, right? So give us some of your sage advice on that. Long-term planning for a business all the way to succession and alignment of values.
Yeah, I think it starts in the beginning. And I think it's, and our friend that just passed away, Peter Hickey, with the 3 legs of the stool. I think what we got to do is, and we've got to talk to a business owner and say, look, what are you planning on doing? Where's this business going? You got in it for a dream that you wanted to make a difference. But the one inevitable fact is that all business owners will exit the business one day. It'll either be carried out in the coffin or you'll leave of your own free will. So what does your journey, when do you think that will be? And then what we want to talk about is getting yourself ready from first of all, the value of the business. How do we drive the business value? Where are the gaps? What are we planning for? If we can plan that in the beginning, Greg, we can sort of plan, well, look, we want to sell to a multinational in this area. We can start pitching the business and changing the business to go in that direction. So it's a lot more valuable in the future. The second area is that there's a lot of things you can do in the beginning, the way you set up your tax structures, the way you set up your personal financial planning, your insurances and that. So there's a couple of reasons for that we want to think about that from the beginning. One is long-term tax planning, and the second reason is in case of some sort of disaster that might happen, with some sort of sickness or incapacitation or death in the business, which happens. You want to make sure that you're prepared from that perspective. If the exit comes prematurely, not to your own accord. And the third side is, and this is, as you mentioned, and I can tell you, Greg, that I will talk to business owners about this, and I've been through it myself, where I build a business up, sold it to a multinational, and then you sort of feel a bit lost. You don't feel relevant. You haven't got a purpose. And, and I'm having helped like hundreds of business owners go through the same journey. It's very common that they leave and they find it difficult to find themselves. It's rare that somebody finds themselves without proper planning.
Mm-hmm.
And I see too many business owners suffer emotionally. But the problem is, and I'll give you one example where there was a friend of mine that wanted to exit, and I kept saying to him, just be prepared what you're going to do after. I'll be right. I kept saying it to him for, sort of 12 months right before he exited. And like literally within a month, he was a wreck of himself. And it was hard to put the finger on exactly what it was because he got more than enough money for the business. It was just, he felt he'd let his staff down by leaving, and he felt he had nothing to do and all that, and everything I warned him about. So the warning signs to business owners, we can, as an advisor or as somebody that's helping a business owner, let's talk about the three legs of a stool. As a business owner, the challenge is for you to take the third leg of the stool seriously enough and understand its impact, because it has a huge impact on what happens after you exit.
And to add to that, I think it's so important that you start that as early as possible. There's no time like the present, right? A lot of people will go, well, I'm just trying to get by here. And I go, well, what you're trying to do is grow this business so that someday you can sell it or transfer it to your children or whatever. But what is the plan? What is it that we're really going for? I mean, that old cliche that people say that you've heard a zillion times and everybody out there has heard, people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their life goals or what they want to do in life, right? And you find this is true even for some very successful business owners. It's like, well, where's the next vacation, or where's this? I just got a text from one of mine, and he goes, well, I'm headed to Switzerland for the next week, and he's in the middle of trying to do a succession plan, right? And it's like, well, is Switzerland more important, or are you can actually work on getting this done, right? So I say that in jest because he's not the only one. There's a lot of people that do that, right? So
the other point you raised there, Greg, is that you've got this, whether or not you're a manager in a business and you want to transition to retirement, or you're starting to go into that retirement, or you're a business owner that's retiring, but there's an army of people out there. There's an army of people out there that has got fantastic business experience. And some of those people have been told, geez, you've got a great caring nature about you. You'd be great as an advisor. And so there's an army of people out there that could help small to medium-sized business, could help others to go through the journey that they've been through in that past business experience. And that's the army of people that we want to sort of motivate, and we want to train up so that if they decide they want to help small to medium-sized business, they can. It gives a great support platform.
Yeah, and look, when people build their boards, they bring on people of different calibers and skill sets. And your advisor, meaning the business advisor, is one. And I know I've been on many boards, even as the business advisors. There is no conflict of interest. You're there to help the business grow. You're there to help the business owner. And I think the more boards actually you can sit on, the better off it can be, because then you've built up the trust, right? Sometimes that's the ultimate when you're actually asked to be on the board because they know the advice you're giving is of high value, right? Whether they're paying you a board of advisors fee or not, the reality is it's a nice accolade to have. So now look, we've covered a lot of ground here in the last 45 minutes. If you were to leave our listeners with three main points to take away from the book, and by the way, folks, this is a new book. This book just came out last month. What would they be, and how would you recommend using these bits of advice for them to succeed?
I think the first is that understand the role of the advisor. So just think about why people would engage an advisor and then reverse engineer that into the skills that you would need to have, right? So thinking about confidence, credibility, building rapport. Right? The other thing is to have a plan, to understand if you're going to set up an advisory practice, how much are you going to charge? What are you going to do? What questions are you going to ask? What's your process going to look like? How do you move into a monthly engagement? How do you build a profitable business? So to have a business plan or some sort of solid step-by-step program that you're going to go through. I think the last thing is that you've got to really connect with people. You've got to love talking and helping people and talk to as many business owners as you can, and just connect with them, ask questions, have a natural curiosity and a sense of care for them. And if you practice, you're going to be a better advisor. So I would take on board, those sort of three areas as key to start off with. And you asked how can they help or how can we help in that process? I think the course that we've got will take them through that entire process. It will give them the questions to ask. It will give them sample proposals. It will give them sample client discovery meetings, sample strategic templates. It'll give them ready-made brochures and marketing. It gives them a set of standards. It gives them, sort of a step-by-step sort of flow through from start to finish. And we would love to talk to anybody on the call about becoming certified. There's a whole information pack there. There's guides we've got if you are just on how to be a good advisor that we put out there to educate the market. And we'd be more than happy to share those resources with you, Greg, through your community.
Well, Peter, one thing I can say, and this is wholeheartedly, we've known each other a long time, and for my listeners, I do bring guests on that I believe have something of tremendous value here. And one of the things I want to say is Peter has published methodologies and assessments in exit, succession planning, business planning that's been used by over 10,000 advisors, including advisors from the largest banks in the U.S., and he's won the Ernst & Young NSW Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Now, that was a while ago, but the point is that he has aggregated the content which an advisor would need to be able to actually be a successful advisor. This is my little bit of a commercial for this at this point, but the reality is that you have to know, go check it out, instituteadvisors.com. There you can learn more. You'll also be able to get in touch with me because we're going to have information for you to reach out to me as well. Peter, I want to thank you for being on Inside Personal Growth, because this is a journey that not only the advisor takes, but the advisor takes with the business person themselves. And when you start to get all the interpersonal skills that are required and all the skill sets that are needed to be a good advisor, you really realize that this is a very small investment, number one, and two, all the tools that he's developed are all there. It's all available for you. It's like somebody's already done it for you. And let's face it, we're all trying to find a quicker, more efficient, better way to do this. Thanks for being on Inside Personal Growth, and thanks for taking the time to address our listeners and advisors with more knowledge and information.
Pleasure, Greg, and thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this podcast on Inside Personal Growth. We appreciate your support. And for more information about new podcasts, please go to InsidePersonalGrowth.com or any of your favorite channels to listen to our podcast. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.